One of the larger artworks I've done. One of my friends gave me a lot of this wallpaper, which I thought was a great background. But this metaphor of the cuckoo clock, I think this is what time it is now. It's always cuckoo o'clock. There's birds out here going cuckoo, cuckoo, trying to warn us that we're in trouble. The cuckoo clock, cuckoo times, our cuckoo world. Hey buddy, come on in, how are you? Welcome, welcome. All right, I've got to get one more thing. The light's okay? Dun, 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 dun. Hello, hello. It's so good to see all my friends again. And what time do you think it is? Well, I'll tell you what time it is. It's time for a little fun.
Welcome to Jeff Wright's house. I live here too, but I have my own place. Yes, we're going today to take a little tour, and we will be most happy to show you a few things that make up part of this East Village artist life and work. And again, if I didn't say it before, I am Rufus, and I am bad.
So when I got here in '76, I was looking around for poetry readings to go to, and I went to the Tin Palace, and I saw Gerard Malanga and Janine Pommy-Vega, and I started going to St. Mark's after a little while. And the first open reading I think I went to was at a bar called on the Bowery called something like Svoboda, and it was a Polish joint. Slosniks. And I was nervous. Ron Padgett was the featured reading, and Tom Savage came in, and I said, "Oh man, can I buy you a drink?" He said, "Oh, thank you." And so he just wanted a Coke. But it felt reassuring to have another guy there who'd already been through the ropes. He was a couple years older than me, and he'd been here. He grew up on McDougal Street, so I got up there, and they said, "And what's your name?" And I was like, "My name is Jay White." No, what did I say? Sorry, Bob White. And so I read my poem. That was my first open reading experience, and it was a very nice way to do it, and they still do it that way. So then I went over to St. Mark's and started reading at the open readings, and they had them once a month, and it's a grand tradition. And then I thought, I'll take the director of the Monday night series out for lunch. Oh, no, that was later. Eileen Miles, I took out to lunch, and she gave me a reading when she was director. But Ed Friedman was the Monday night guy, and I brought him a wonderful book that he wanted. And so I got a reading at St. Mark's. That was like a one-stop shopping for everything poetry. It was amazing. They were having 3 workshops a week and 2 or 3 readings a week, and so we would just go there all the time, and we'd bring the kids, and they would play in the schoolyard. Ted had a workshop, Alice had a workshop, Jim Brody, John Godfrey, they all had workshops. Then after a while I got on the board there and was helping to make some decisions. I read there every year for like 20 years. So I paid my dues. So around 1987, I was in grad school at Brooklyn College with Allen Ginsberg down, and it's right when the galleries in the East Village were just starting to really grow, and I was thinking, like, I really need to know about this scene. So as a poet, we knew a little bit about the art scene through the people that came to us through St. Mark's, like Alex Katz and Yvonne Jacquet, Rudy Burkhart, great people. There were suddenly 80 galleries in the neighborhood. It really expanded the number of people that I knew. And so I was writing this great column for this weekly, and it, like my favorite column was when I had John Sex meets John Ashbery, because it was these 2 worlds that were never really going to meet. But for me, they met, and I always thought that was part of what I was doing here, was traversing these different worlds and being a sort of an emissary between them, a messenger, certainly enjoying it. Ted told us we should all start a magazine like he did. He started C Magazine, and he said, you know, you publish yourself and some friends, and you try to get a couple of famous people. And so everybody started doing that in my little circle, and that's when I started doing the postcards. But then I also thought, well, why don't we start a reading series? What's so hard about that? So Jim Brody and I started this reading at a bar on St. Mark's that we called El Centro. It didn't really have a name. And so we had like Ann Waldman read there, and Bob Holman, Ron Padgett, Eileen Miles read with us. We had all of our crew read at this thing. There are places where it's really great to have readings. There's so wonderful places if you can get in. There's Howl Happening is a new space that's really amazing. They don't have open readings, but they have a lot of events. And then there's KGB, the wonderful lit bar. It has a great reputation. There's La Mama. The New Yorkers always had a lot of open mics, and the slam, that's where the slams came out of, and they're still rolling hot and heavy. A poem by the great Reverend Pedro Pietri, poem 151.
I am feeling too good to come to work today, but if I feel worse tomorrow, I will be there early.
New Romantics, Jeff. Who are them? How did they originate?
When the language school popped up in the poetry world, I said, man, we need something. We can't just be third generation New York school forever. We need something more catchy and vital. And how about we call ourselves the New Romantics? And because, you know, if you look up beat, you're going to get all these people's names. If you look up third generation New York school, you might not get much. But New Romantic is a movement now. And there were artists who were calling themselves a New Romantic. There was Phyllis Bramson out of Chicago. It was a movement in the classical music, and it was also in fashion some. And one of the clips I have that Shelley Miller was clipping stuff for me, and she was in this group that we called ourselves the New Romantics. And it's a big fashion ad that says New Romanticism right across the top. And this one guy, Neil Hackman, he wrote a wonderful New Romantic manifesto. One thing I thought about with poetry is that it needed to have a sort of a persona. And the idea of addressing some other significant other in your poems, the muse sort of as a lover, became a theme that I first really noticed with Thomas Wyatt and his sonnets and his beautiful lines about Noli me tangere, for Caesar's I am, and wild for to hold, but don't touch.
Not enoughs, built with swing and window shuffling, the jawbone of an ass to back you. Phone ringing here at Bowery Poetry Club. You'll always be welcome here, Junebug. On this page of air I have herein inscribed. This is the line you've been waiting to stand in. Thank you everybody so much. Don, you want to thank you for coming today?
I found that my own personal favorites were things like Neruda's Captain's Verses, which were basically love poems. And those are the kind of poems that I was really drawn to, so I thought, well, why not call this New Romanticism? And also, the biggest stars in poetry, in a way, were the Romantics originally, and they had such great stories. I always felt like a bridge figure, bringing new venues in, bridging poetic techniques, combining elements into my own New Romantic style. Blending the beats with New York school, the cool surrealism of Gregory Corso, the shamanistic politics of Allen Ginsberg, and matching it up with the downplayed elegance of Jimmy Schuyler and the frothy exuberance of Frank O'Hara and Kenneth Koch.
Tell me about your cultural upbringing and heritage.
I didn't have a lot with me that I brought up from West Virginia, but I had a few books that I had been reading down there, including Mayakovsky, James Wright, some Robert Bly. And when I got here, there was a whole new world was presented to me. So these are some of the people. It goes through Creeley and Mort Denby and down here Vincent Katz and June Jordan. And David Meltzer, the great beat poet, and Frank O'Hara. And it goes through Jack Spicer, and some of the local people like John Godfrey's in here, and then down here Philip Whalen that Alice Notley was telling us to read, and goes right through John Yow and Sir Thomas Wyatt, who's a big influence that I learned about at Brooklyn College when I was getting my MFA there with Allen Ginsberg.
Right, live, Alyona! He's here. Thank you.
How does surrealism fit into new romanticism?
So Paul Hoover, who edits New American Writing, he was saying that surrealism to him was sort of the last gasp of romanticism in poetry, that it was where the authentic voice of the poet, and in a sort of an automatic way, was still honored and found, and a lot of lyricism there.
Upbringing and heritage.
Oh man, again?
And there you see Anne Waldman, people like Rudy Burkhart and Yvonne Jacquet. Here's Emily Dickinson and more Rudy Burkhart with Alex Katz. And this book right here, a memoir by Lita Hornick.
More books.
Jeff, and how did you get into publishing the underground magazines?
We were rolling along, and then the publisher, as they want to do, was always crying, broke, I'm broke. So I said, well good, I'll go sell some ads, I could use some money too. And I had sold ads, I'd been in the magazine business some in college. And so I devised this thing. I said, hey, for 25 bucks, I'll run your business card and we'll typeset the date of your show and the name of the guy. And so lots of people did it. And hey, now they wanted half pages. So I sold a bunch of half pages and quarters. We had a little ad that said, well, what do we do? And it says, well, we cover art, we cover literature, we cover dance, we cover film, we cover music, we cover all the arts. Hey, Cover is a good name. So we called it Cover after the 4th issue. And then I got a great partner who was the day manager at the Ritz nightclub, which was a big deal. And she was able to open the door to Michelle Roux over at Absolute. So now we had a liquor ad on the back cover for a while. And that's how Cover got going. And we ran it for 15 years, and it was quite an adventure. We ran it out of an office just about like this. In fact, it was in this very building, 1 floor above me, where we were running that. So my partner was named Bob Berg, and he was like my cavalry. He was one of the two Jeb Stewarts I had. And he would drive me around to we would do shoots, we would drop off magazines at the rock and roll venues, at the galleries and all. So, and I would be his stylist, which I really loved, and he would do his shoots. And we would get good stuff too. We got Radiohead, we were doing the Indigo Girls. So Bob is really nuts. Bob is, he's high maintenance, as they said over at The Voice after they hired him the one and only time. He'd worked for every single magazine in town one time. And he had a real eye, and he had a great technique and style. So, but anyway, so we're taking pictures of the Indigo Girls, and at this point, Bob is like, he's doing all kind of stuff like this, you know, and he gets up on his chair like this, and he's doing this, you know, and he's bending over just like this. So he might as well have just like sat in his chair. But suddenly, you know what? He falls off his chair, and he jumps up embarrassed as hell. And they pretend like they didn't notice. And meanwhile, he's like, God, look, my earring fell out. My ear hurts. Where's my earring?
Jeff, you met so many musicians, artists and poets in your life. So tell us please about those special marks they left in your life, please.
Like David Byrne and Paul Simon and people from Charles, Armando Perez, who was murdered, and Chico Garcia, who did a mural in that garden early on. He actually really was sort of the founder. And then Kenny Hiratsuka, the artist, came in. He's the one who actually gave me a key at the Chico Mendes mural garden. Amazing people, like Rick Ocasek, the lead singer for the Cars. On and on. And then Lita Hornick was taking me out to dinner with John Ashbery. And then Lita would, since Alan lived so close to me, she sent us together. And so I said, hey, Alan, let's write a poem. So we wrote this great poem. He's talking about the Soviet convocation, and I'm talking about when the animals walked and talked. And it was called All Day Sucker. And it was a pretty little sonnet. It was a great honor to write a collaboration with Alan.
So when you were running Cover, did you use the gardens in any way?
Yeah, Corinne, after a while, we were using the gardens all the time. We were staging photo shoots in there, like this one here, with the actor. and trying to give them as much publicity as we could. And we had these like send your Congress or your local city council member a postcard. At this time, Luigi was the designer. But I would go over and help him because I thought it was so much fun. I really loved that magazine. I miss, but it was so desperate. It was always like, there was a line in one of my poems, which I didn't write a lot at the time. It was, turned over every damn rock in the forest, back in a flash with a stash. So I had made just enough money to go buy some pot, which was our jet fuel, you know? And it was like every issue, you would have the issue at the printer and you would still need to get about $4,000 or $5,000 in that last week of selling ads, you know? So that was pretty rough. It was quite a challenge, but the love and the community, there were literally hundreds of people who passed through Cover Store. It was almost 250,000 pages altogether of stories. My partner, Michelle Coriel from the Ritz, she said to me one day, you know, Jeff, you don't have to do this forever if you don't want to. All of a sudden, it was getting harder. I was trying to keep the gardens going, and I was still involved with the struggle and going to demonstrations and organizing them and making speeches. 'Cause I'm a man, M-A-A-A-A-A-N. We were still having the Molotov cocktail hour in a different garden on East 11th Street. And then so the Ritz would have me over there once a month to do our big rock and roll party. And I was getting there later and later because I was more interested in singing and playing in the garden with the fire and trying to keep that whole movement alive, because that was a lot of fun too. And advertising was starting to go away also. And I just thought, okay, I did this 15 years. That's long enough. Doppelgangster, wolf behind the wheel, what dudes we be, skimming masks of glass across a bourbon sea, the mirror smoking all my weed, terminal desire in the oracle flare, selling fiddles to infidels under withering fire. Silent heat wrings jade from me. These lines raked like coals from the sun. So then I messed around for a couple of years, and once again though, it broadened my experience so much in New York. I had about 6 jobs in 2 years. I was working for an interior decorator, I was working for a management consultant team, and then for 9 months I was a copy editor for porn books, you know, the one-hand book. That was kind of a nice job, but we had a disagreement about the language, and I quit. I was super lucky after a while to get a job teaching, and the only people they really needed were special ed. And anyone who had a master's in anything at that time could get a job for $35,000 a year. And it was actually a perfect match. I really liked teaching special ed.
That's what it is.
So I started doing collages, and mostly as birthday cards, but then there were other people around me who were doing lots of art. Nobody much is doing collage except for George Schneeman. And there was Joe Brainerd, so there were some examples right around here. And I started doing that. And I often work on the back of another card. And the same time I started doing these collages, I was invited to participate in the mail art movement. And Ray Johnson sent me some work, and I was sending work to Tokyo. This was the cover for a brochure from the Holly Crawford Gallery, the Good Outlaw show, where once again I invited all my friends to come and paint on the walls, and we made a beautiful video out of it, and she ran several of my collages. And you can see here again the similar influences that I like to use are faux graffiti or simic writing a lot of times, rock and roll stickers. I like to write a song, write a poem. Some of these are really bad, I gotta say, but I would be happy never to leave the East Village, and it's true. I kind of like run my track between the East River and Tompkins Square, and even when I lived over by St. Mark's Church, I would come to the library at Tompkins. and my kids would go there, and they were in workshops there with painting workshops. And I was always checking out books there, and then when I was teaching, I was checking out books there. And I've been so lucky to be in some of the programming.
What happened with the garden?
Well, there were all these empty lots around here because it was such a ghetto, and they were burning down the buildings, and the people started building gardens in them. Mostly the Hispanic population, you know, around the East Village. So I became like an expert in trying to like write fair bylaws, and but inevitably, you know, I just had trouble with. But it was a grand fight, and we saved about 100 gardens altogether. One I was in, like, really involved with Chico when I got arrested and stuff. It got bulldozed, yeah.
That's one of the things that makes this neighborhood distinct from other neighborhoods, is that our local gardens have been paid for by the lives of the people who live here, who've claimed this little postage stamps of ground from some of the most valuable real estate on earth. And Jeff Wright, poet, citizen,
and an educator,
just would like to go to the garden that's near his house and participate. You know, Jeff is that kind of guy. He gets out there and opens things up, lets people in. He's an anarchist in his own way, does not believe in rules. It's the spirit of his neighborhood.
So we decided to have a key ceremony where we gave Jeff a symbolic key to emphasize the fact that this was a community with a gate and not with a fence.
In solidarity with me, because sorry, Foxy. So this key is from Colette. She brought me this beautiful key right here. You'll always be able to get in anywhere with this key.
They have asked me to surrender my plot and my key.
We will never surrender. By 2007, I had kind of gotten all my extra degree stuff that I had to do and had it down. And so I had some extra energy. And I thought, it would be nice to publish something again. And Bob Holman said, hey, Jeff, I have an opening at the club. Would you like to do something? And I said, sure, you know what I'll do? I'll do a live production. And we'll call it Live Mag. And if you, on the stage and read your poem, we'll treat it as if you were published, and you can use it as a credit. So we did that, and we made it into a book swap, and we had readers on the stage. And then Uchi Nduka, who is a fabulous poet, and he had come and read it, and he said, hey, you didn't publish my poem. I said, well, I didn't publish any of the poems. It was like you were on the stage, and that was the publication. But then I thought, you know what, I think I will just publish this poem. So issue 2 of Live Mag was a print issue, and it had about 10 poems in there, 12 poems. Steve Dalachinsky was in there. I was only doing it once a year. That was enough. I started in 2007. It only comes out yearly, and it still continues to grow a little bit. Now it's about 50 pages. We got an ad from the Hole here, the gallery, with Luigi Cazzaniga, who is my art director over at Cover magazine, and Ilka Scobie, his wife, who's the deputy editor.
Reading ready to start. Please notice the beautiful work, The Mollies by Luigi Cazzaniga. Yes, Renee. Yes, Jerome. We have Kristen Crevelet. Yes. We have L. Brandon Kroll filming.
Raise your hand if you know who the Kardashians are.
And I realized that the poem is so dirty and times that, I couldn't read it for the kids, so I read something else. This is the poem. Oh, so long ago it happened to someone else. I've been called a bad woman. I don't know.
We've been lucky in the last year with Live Mag to, actually for the last decade, to host events at La Mama, and they fit with our idea of combining different arts. So we'll put music in it, we'll show artwork, talk about it, and have poetry and performance. similarly with Howl Happening, which is a great space that Jane Friedman has opened up now and is going to be expanding. And she's asked me to do a residency. I think that there's a very good chance that I've actually organized more readings in more places and more events like this than anyone, anywhere, anytime.
You're the man!
There's a very good chance of that, because I started doing it in '77 at the El Centro.
Oh, Jeffrey, this is so wonderful.
And welcome the other amazing artists that are going to be performing tonight.
That's amazing, Jeffrey.
So I belong to this wonderful group called Brevitas. It has about 70 members, and we all send each other poems every 2 weeks to look at. So this year they asked me to design a cover for them. 4 sonnets in here. Down here it's like, meet me at the sun's stump. Take 10 paces, turn, and fire the boss.
So the next question. What is your howling all about? Do I pronounce it correctly? Howling? Howling?
Howling.
Howling. Jeff, and what is your howling is all about? I have to do it again, right? So with who or no?
Yeah, some were howling. We were banging the pots.
Yes, you started.
It's, we all had on our community garden shirt. I was looking at a rallying cry for the Save the Garden demos, and we came up with this howl. It wasn't because of Allen Ginsberg's howl, but that worked in really well.
Do you talk to your puppets when you are alone?
Yeah. This is a great poem by Ted Berrigan. It goes, "Hi bears, do you believe in magic?"
Todd, I just can't understand it.
Good, because I am here to make a monkey out of you. The best way to make yourself a monkey is to jump down, spin around, pick a bale of cotton. And if you don't understand this, you don't understand the history of your country. And with a photo by Jim Carroll. I lifted from the girls' dorm at NAU, Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Oh, yeah?
I was wearing my buffalo skin poncho that I picked up at the city dump, and it was snowing.
Put up any of my pictures, right?
That's a portrait of me that Agam did. And over here's Jane Ann Phillips, a friend of mine, and really pushed me and motivated me in West Virginia.
Oh, yeah, more books.
Carolyn Cassidy's bio. Picture of my beautiful, loving family. My mom and dad both from coal camps in West Virginia. Barely even towns. War, West Virginia. 100 people. And the first antique I bought in Morgantown, West Virginia, the ambulance. Over there's the Jefferson pine from Idlewild, California, that I picked up when I was like 19. And then the 2 masks, one from my son Seth and one from my brother Keith. And in this business, it's like wearing a mask a lot. You need a shield of some kind. So these are my books that I mail out. I've got 18 books out now. And then down here are some of my books from college that I had to pick up when I was getting my MFA.
We go to the library.
I studied a lot of the
after
old English poets at that point. Amazing people, like Rick Ocasek, the lead singer for the Cars. We actually read together at St. Mark's, and Neil Young came with his manager, Elliot. Yeah, it was a great gift to have this book from him. Nice signature here, too. It says, "For Jeff, the best poet who ever lived."
Looks like Daniel Kid.
No, it looks like Blondie. Are you going to review a book for us today?
Oh, yeah, now that you're asking, your book here, Party Everywhere. It should be on your tombstone, Jeff, man. Party everywhere. What do you mean you forgot something? The movie's finished. The movie's finished.
How does surrealism fit into your romanticism?
Again.
I know my tongue a little. Who was in your generation at St. Mark's?
Yeah, we were really tight over there at St. Mark's. We had such a bunch of people who were doing so much. And Greg Masters put together this book that documents a lot of us. Tom Weigel, Michael Skolnick, Gary Linhart, Maggie Dupree. Fell right into it with Bob Rosenthal, who was Ginsberg's secretary, and his wife Shelley. Kraut, the great artist. Okay. Well, let me put the other one back in. And so we were over there at Jerry Ray.